Welcome to the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Fit, the all-in-one AI-powered corporate wellness platform developed by Vantage Circle.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Alif Ahmed, and today's guest is none other than Klyn Elsbury, who is a sought-after trainer, best-selling author, keynote speaker, certified neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, and cystic fibrosis warrior. Her story and daily work to thrive rather than survive has inspired thousands who have heard her speak and through her training programs. Hello, Klyn, and welcome to the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast.
Hi, hello. This will be a fun day. I'm excited.
Klyn, what does a normal day in your life look like?
Yeah, a normal work day, I am a speaker and I work with mental health and wellness for employee initiative.
All right.
And so typically 3 out of 4 weeks in a month, I'm on the road presenting to different corporations about how they can use mindfulness overall improve their company from the inside out. So some weeks are obviously at the house doing office type duties, but for the most part, I'm a woman on the road helping teams create happier, healthier employees.
Very inspiring. And so you are someone who is very informed about mindful leadership, right?
Absolutely. We'd hope.
So what would you say to our listeners what mindful leadership is and how do you think it is related to wellness?
Mindful leadership, I love that question. It's the ability to recognize your thoughts and to give weight to only the thoughts that help you to grow. So if we think of our thoughts like clouds in the sky, some of them are puffy, some of them might be dark storm clouds. Well, puffy isn't necessarily bad, neither is the dark storm clouds. The question is what is the end goal and how will your thoughts help you get there? Because if we as humans experience roughly 30,000 to 50,000 thoughts a day, our entire world has been created by the types of clouds that we're identifying.
Yes, that is true. And obviously in today's world, it is very important to be a mindful leader. Won't you say so?
Oh, absolutely. I think that companies that have mindful leaders or at least are aware of mindfulness, not only do they tend to have less stress and anxiety on their teams, they tend to sell 37% more services. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, they really address the tenure. So in the United States anyways, the average employee lasts about 18 months. Mm-hmm. And through mindful leadership, they've actually proven that people stay with organizations longer. So less reliance on recruiting and onboarding and training. And the more that an employee feels loved and valued, the more likely they are to also recommend that their friends work for them.
Yes, obviously a work environment where people are mindful about all the things that go on in their regular lives is a great advantage. And people tend to forget the importance of mindfulness and meditation. So in today's fast-paced world, this is something that really should be touched upon by more employers around the world.
Absolutely. Definitely around the world. Imagine what would it be like in your life if your friends or your family were just simply more mindful of how they were acting and how their thoughts were contributing to them. You can have a sad day. I'm not saying don't have it. I think toxic positivity is the reliance of always being happy, but just to recognize, you know what, today's not a good day, and to be more empathetic to the listener and the other people who are in the room and having the same experiences, because through that empatheticness, if you will, relationships are formed and bonds are built. And I think that's what makes being a mindful leader really important, is it's the ability to listen and relate better to your teams.
I agree with you on that. And when an employer wants to come up with the approach of being more mindful as a leader, how do you think he or she will be able to relate to that? Or how do you say mindfulness relates to leadership?
Yeah, really, mindfulness relates to leadership in that if we're getting 30,000 to 50,000 thoughts a day and we're aware of how our thoughts are creating our actions, well, what actions can we create differently for our teams and for the well-being of our teams? So, for example, if you're on a sales call, right, and you're with your direct report and you're observing them doing the selling, we already know that you could probably sell better than your direct report. That's why you got promoted. But what if you could understand maybe where your direct report was coming from? You listen to the customer about what the customer's wants and needs are. And then once you get on the same level of rapport as the employee, well, now you can just simply explain how the two conversations collided. So it's more of a way for you to put yourself back in the control seat And so that way you're better able to relate, understand, and appreciate those in your network. And what is leadership but being able to understand, appreciate, and relate more to the people on your team and your company and in your overall life?
That's really insightful. And coming from someone as informed about mindful leadership as you, I would definitely want to know more about how you practice mindful leadership in your workplace.
Yeah. So great question also too, right? So for me, mindful leadership is not just meditation or prayer. Anybody can meditate and pray, but they don't necessarily need to be mindful. In my research, I've identified 12 components of what it means to truly be mindful and how people can take that immediately back into their organization. In an everyday situation, some of the things that you can do, and they might sound unique, but practice gratitude. Another thing you can do is to contemplate your own mortality. Far too often humans were uncomfortable thinking about our last days or the last days of those we love. But if we simply just reflect on what it would be like if we knew that, by 5 o'clock today, we experienced our last day, how would we change our lives differently? How would we talk to other people differently? What would we communicate differently? Another way that you can practice being a mindful leader just throughout your day-to-day is also in walking outside of nature. So it's been shown that people with live plants in their office are more productive by 58% more productivity just by simply being around live plants. So there's all kinds of little ways that you can incorporate being more mindful in your day to increase what's called your SWB, which is your subjective well-being.
Klyn, many of our listeners might not be aware of the numerous hardships you have had to endure in terms of your health. And when you said that contemplating mortality and death can help a person be more mindful, I just felt it resonate deep within me. I'm just being honest. I, being an athlete, sometimes ponder about similar topics that can harm my career, such as injuries and accidents. However, I have seen that playing out the negative scenarios in your mind and along with the positive ones and accepting them can help us be more proactive about the present. And doing so can be really helpful for people. They can help them be more fulfilled and prevent them from missing out on life.
Yeah. And that's really what it is just becoming a little more present in our day-to-day.
Yes.
And some ways running actually can be related back to mindfulness.
Yes.
Because honestly, like the more you work out, the more those chemicals are released in your brain. And it increases your subjective well-being also. So, technically, if on your runs you get that chance of, me time and you start to reflect on what's important to you, isn't that being mindful in its own? And part of being mindful is taking care of your body, right? Like our bodies are our temples.
Yes.
And the way we eat, the way we think, the way we exercise plays into that. We can sit here and talk about clouds in the skies and what emotion we want to give our thoughts. But at the end of the day, if you're not protecting your body and your temple, you can't really say that you're mindful because you can't even take care of your own body.
Yes, that is the biggest problem in workplaces around the world right now. And with the daily hustle and bustle and the stress of meeting deadlines, employees, I personally think, cannot work as efficiently and they are very stressed. So Klyn, do you think things can be done otherwise without something affecting or compromising efficiency?
Yeah, here's the thing. If you're stressed out, breathe. So there's something called your sympathetic nervous system. And your sympathetic nervous system is responsible for your fight, flight, or freeze mechanisms, right? So tiger comes out and goes to chase you. You're either going to try to fight the tiger, you're going to freeze, you're not going to know what to do, or you're going to run from the tiger. And stuff like that was created to protect us from an evolutionary standpoint. However, in today's society, for the most part, there's not a lot of tigers chasing us. So we take, instead of the tiger chasing us, a stressful email as our tiger. And over time, that increases a lot of the chemicals coming out of your body, and it raises your cortisol levels, leading to obesity, leading to high blood pressure. And what I'm saying is when you experience your tiger moments or your stressful moments, try to reset your sympathetic nervous system into what's called a parasympathetic nervous system, which means calm. And you can do that by many, many ways: a walk in nature, working out, running, meditation, prayer, practicing gratitude, contemplating death. But you can also get this. Just breathe. So breathe through your nose for a count of 5 or 6, and then exhale through your mouth for a count of 10. And that cycle of breathing actually resets your sympathetic nervous system and switches you over to your parasympathetic nervous system, which are the feelings of calm, of belonging, of love, of relaxation. And so if that's nothing else, if you can't do anything else through the day, when you have your stressful moments, just practice on inhaling through your nose longer or exhaling through your mouth longer than you're inhaling through your nose for a few minutes. And it'll help reincite those feelings of calmness.
Yes, Kaylin, the things you said are absolutely true and will be very helpful. But for our audience that are stressed and have trouble being mindful, what measures should they adopt in their lives to be more mindful and successful?
Yeah, I mean, it comes with practice, right? So I didn't learn this overnight. Neither is anybody listening to it. It took me years. But I realized that the benefits of being able to control my emotional state far outweighed the fact that I was living from fire to fire, if you will. So, the step one is just observe your thoughts. So our emotions change many times throughout the day, right? And the next time you might feel sad or stressed or overwhelmed or burnt out or fatigued, just sit with that feeling and say, this is what fatigue feels like. And recognize that fatigue's only going to last for maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes before you're going to have another emotion come up. And so recognizing that our emotions and how we feel, they come and go throughout the day naturally. So if it's natural, just enjoy the human experience of it, because in 15 minutes, you're going to have another emotion anyways.
Thank you once again, Kaylin. So the previous day, I was actually checking out your book called I Am, The Untold Story of Success. I have read the summary of the book till now, and I'm sure I will get hooked on it easily. And I am definitely getting myself a copy as soon as possible. Now, for our listeners who might be interested to know more about your amazing book, would you like to give them a brief about what they might get themselves into by reading your book?
Yeah, I mean, so it is available on Audible. I don't know if it ships to where you're located. But I mean, you can get an Audible, and I personally think the Audible is a little bit better than the written version, because you hear my voice really telling the story of what it was like to live in hospitals. And I don't hold anything back. I almost guarantee you will laugh, you will cry. And it really brings you centered to what's important in your life. And I think far too often we forget, our lives are short. What's important? What do we stand for? And why did we choose that thing to be what we stand for? And when you understand those thoughts, then really the rest doesn't matter. And that's really the premise of the book, is I interviewed very successful people when I had absolutely nothing. And I said, hey, how do I do this? And there's 12 themes that they shared. And each one of those themes is what I implemented in my life to allow me the privilege to speaking on this stuff. And so it's a very, very easy listen. If you get the Audible, it's about 4.5 hours. And it's going to take you to some dark places in your mind. But it's also the most beautiful thing about stress or anxiety is after those periods of intensity, beautiful things happen. And that's what I encourage every reader to find, is what is that beauty?
That you say that, I would definitely get the version on Audible, and I would take this, I'll take this experience to the next level by just taking a walk out on nature and listening to your Audible version. And Kaylin, and it has been a great experience listening to you so far, and it was an absolute honor to have you with us in the show, our Corporate Wellness Podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kaylin.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.